Welcome to the Author Your Life podcast, where you can write a new script for your life and become the hero of your story. I'm your host, David McRae. You are the author of your life. Let's get started.
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Before we launch into the podcast, I'd like to tell you about my book, Author Your Life, Become the Hero of Your Story. This is a book for people who are at a crossroads in life and want to make a fresh start. Judging by the fact that you're listening to this podcast, I suspect that you may well be one of those people. This book is going to help you to change your narrative and rewrite the scripts in life that are holding you back. This book covers the latest science and research showing you how to become the person you want to be and live the life that you want to live. I'd like to invite you to get this book not only because I feel it's a great book that's going to help you, but also it's going to support the podcast as well. I love podcasts, but sometimes all of those ads that you get can be really irrelevant and annoying when you just want to listen to a good piece of training or a good interview. So I therefore made the decision with my podcasts that number one, I wanted my podcast to be free so that everyone could listen to it. And number two, that I wasn't going to fund it through all these annoying and irrelevant adverts and commercials. Therefore, if you want to support the podcast and support all the things that I put out there for free, whether it be here on the podcast, my YouTube channel, other areas on social media, then buying a book is going to enable and help that process. So this is what we call a win-win scenario. By buying the book, you help to support my work and all the free stuff that I put out there, and you also get a really transformational book that's going to help you make those changes that you really want in your life. So if you feel you're someone who's at that crossroads in life, you're looking for a new direction, you're looking for a fresh start, then make sure you get this book. Author Your Life, Become the Hero of Your Story is available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Whatever your preferred medium, it's there for you to go get right now. Hello, Story Changers, and welcome back to another episode of the Author Your Life podcast. Today, we have a returning fan favorite. We have our most downloaded guest of 2018, Melanie Pritchard. What I wanted to do this year was I wanted to bring back the favorite guest from each year, and this is something that I'm going to be doing as the podcast continues, is when we have our number one standout guest, rather than going out there and trying to find new guests and perhaps guests who aren't necessarily as good or guests you aren't necessarily as interested in as guests we've had before. I thought, well, if there's a proven, tried and tested guest who's come on and you guys really enjoyed the first time you heard them, why don't we just bring them back on a second time? Have a different discussion with different questions so you can continue to tap into their wisdom, into their personality, into their life experiences. So we're doing that for the very first time, having our very first return guest in the form of Melanie, who indeed was our most downloaded episode of 2018. If you're relatively new to the podcast, then you may want to go back to episode 37 to listen to our first interview with Melanie, and there we'll cover a little bit about some of her life story and some of her foray into the work that she does. If you've already listened to Melanie, or indeed if you just want to get stuck in and listen to this episode, the two episodes are relatively in a silo and in a vacuum, so it's not as if we refer loads of times back to the original episode in this new episode. They're two quite different conversations and quite different interactions. So if you do want to launch straight into this one, or you're ready to launch into your second listening from Melanie, what we're going to be covering today in this discussion is why problems are opportunities, the different types of distorted thinking and how to overcome them, that careers are like dating. You don't settle for the first thing that comes along. If you don't identify your values, you'll keep on making choices that conflict with them. Now, I was really pleased to get Melanie back on the show and have this discussion because it actually took us a long time to organize this. Melanie has been doing a ton of traveling. She has a very enviable lifestyle. She's really started to create some of that work-life balance, almost some of that 4-hour work week kind of stuff that a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people in general are aspiring to. And we talk about that a little bit in this discussion. But as a result, it took a while for us to actually sit down and have this conversation. So I'm particularly pleased to bring this to you, not just because Melanie is a fantastic guest and we had a really great interaction, but also because it was quite a lot of effort on the back end bringing her into this interview. But as they say, good things come to those who wait, and this is certainly a good thing. So without further preamble, please enjoy this interview for the second time with Melanie Pritchard. So Melanie, I normally say welcome to the Author Your Life podcast, but you are, of course, a returning guest, so it is a welcome back to the Author Your Life podcast. It's lovely to see you again.
Thank you very much, David. I'm honoured to be here again.
So you were our most listened to guest of 2018. So since everyone loves you so much and what you've got to say, I thought I'd give you the opportunity to take the platform again and tell us a little bit more. And there's a few topics I'd like to explore, new ventures and new things that you've been working on since we last spoke. And where I'd like to start is some of the work that you're doing into resilience. Now, resilience, everyone has a rough idea of what that word means. It brings up certain meaning to them. But in terms of the work that you do, can you give us some context on what resilience is and what resilience means?
That's a really good question. Well, actually, the root of resilience in Latin, resilio, means to jump back. So I quite like that one because it gets to the heart of what it's all about, really. For me, resilience is really learning how to overcome challenges. What I love about resilience is we can learn it. So I don't believe that you're either resilient or you're not, but I do believe that life for all of us is challenging at different stages, whether it's sort of, going through challenging professional situations, personal situations in terms of family, relationships, illness, whatever it is. So I think resilience is one of, I would say, actually the most essential life skill, which is why I think pretty much every employer lists it as a required skill.
Mm-hmm. So that's what resilience is. But how do we develop it? Do we go to the gym? Do we take on extraordinary challenges? How do we build this key important skill within us?
That's an excellent question, David. Well, just to give you a little bit of background in terms of sort of how we're all different. So our makeup is 50% genetics. So some people are slightly advantaged. So, for example, if you've had parents who are both quite resilient and who have had a very positive parenting style, for example, who give you a lot of praise when you're little, like, well done, David, you can do it, darling, you can achieve anything you want. Parents who build up your self-esteem and that kind of, you go for it, don't let this challenge keep you down. Obviously, that's going to be a sort of pattern of behaviour that's going to really support the way that you approach challenges. So learned behaviour can come in. Our genetics, as I say, play a part. But the other 50% is in our hands. So if people are sitting there thinking, oh, cripes, I'm definitely genetically disadvantaged. My parents aren't resilient. I'm not resilient, genetically. Don't panic, because 50% is in your control, which I think is a very positive message, actually. So how can we develop resilience? Well, as Sheryl Sandberg says, who you probably heard, is very high up at Facebook, very inspiring lady, resilience is a muscle. So when we think about the brain, as you well know, David, the brain is naturally programmed to flip to the negative. And that's something a lot of us simply aren't taught. So we can spend a lot of time beating ourselves up for being negative, when actually that's the default position, going back to caveman times, the kind of fight, flight or freeze response, fleeing from big dinosaurs charging at us, keeping us safe. What we're not taught is a positive toolkit for intervening and reshaping the way that we think, for finding a positive toolkit for approaching challenges in a more positive way. And that's something that I've been very fortunate to develop an awareness of, and I'd be very happy to share some of those tools that clients seem to find helpful?
Well, you've teased us, so you're going to have to share them now, Mel. What are they?
Disclaimer, first of all, everybody is different, so different things work for different people. So what I find works best is kind of having a play around and just working out what you notice works for you, what makes a difference in your life. It can take practice. As I said, it's a muscle, much like meditation. So if you're expecting to try something once and suddenly feel like Superwoman when you're normally feeling quite wobbly, that may not be the case. So bear in mind you want to be practicing some of these fantastic tools. So I'll tell you some of my favorites. This one isn't a tool as such, but it's sort of a background, more abstract top tip. I'm sure you'll agree, and it's the importance of knowing what your why is in life. What's your purpose? Because I think if we know what our why is, we can get through an awful lot. We have much more of a natural motivation, drive. We're feeding our core values, those things that give our lives purpose and meaning. So I think working out what your why is essential. If anybody's thinking, cripes, how do I know what my why is? Which sounds like a very big question. There's a very inspiring video you may have heard of, which you can Google on YouTube by, it's Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson in a fight. Have you ever seen that one, David?
No.
Oh my goodness, you are going to love it. It's a motivational video that I've played in resilience workshops. I'm not going to tell you what it's about because I don't want to ruin the surprise, but it's extremely powerful and it gives a very thought-provoking explanation on the power of the why. Let's just say that Buster Douglas found himself in an almost insurmountable situation and he excelled himself because his why was stronger than the challenge in front of him. So working out your why is a very powerful way of keeping you on track through tough times, and there will always be tough times in life. That feeds into, I guess, another just general point. It's very easy for us, I'm sure you'll agree, to feel like a victim in life because shit happens sometimes. And sometimes shit happens to some people more than others, and it can feel dreadfully unfair at times. So I think another key sort of mindset tip is remembering life is happening for you, not to you. So you might not understand why some bad things are happening, but if you open your heart to look for what the positive learning is, what can I learn from this horrible situation, this, overwhelming challenge, you'll immediately be in a more positive, proactive mindset, a growth mindset, rather than that black and white. It's not fair, my best friend's, whatever, let's say, married, and, I haven't had a boyfriend for 3 years, let's say, or as one of my clients said, it's not fair, that girl's only 23 and she's got her dream job, and I'm sort of 29 and living at home with mum and dad and barely earning anything, can't even afford to take a girl out for a drink. So remembering that life is happening for us, not to us, immediately shifts us out of that victim mentality that we're very prone to getting back into because of that, the way our brain works. So that's a personal favourite, that one. That feeds into another personal favourite of mine. Now, you may well have heard of this, David. If you haven't, I'm very excited for you because this is one that really can change your life. Have you heard of Liggy Webb? She's a thought leader on resilience.
I haven't, no. That's 0 for 2. That's 2 things I haven't heard of now.
Well, Liggy is an amazing lady. She does resilience workshops for some very well-known companies and organisations all over the world. And she's written a fabulous book called Resilience, unsurprisingly, by Liggy Webb. That's Liggy. Very user-friendly, and she gives them really simple top tips on resilience. One of my very favourite of her top tips is called the probopportunity. The probopportunity. So the probopportunity is the merging of the words problem and opportunity. You can probably guess what it means, can you? The probopportunity. Let me see if you can guess, David.
So you can see the problems or the challenges in your life either as a negative thing or a positive thing. You can either say it's a problem that's ruining my life, or it's a problem that gives me the opportunity to change something, to improve something, to develop something.
Absolutely. Good guess, David. It's exactly that, really. It's looking for the opportunity in every problem. So I'll give you a very, very simple example. I was in a supermarket, let's say about 2 months ago, buying lots of food for a dinner party, and the queue was absolutely massive, and I thought, oh great, I'm going to be here for half an hour waiting. So I felt really overwhelmed with negative thoughts. Immediately I asked myself, what's the opportunity in this problem? And I thought, oh great, actually I've got lots of WhatsApp messages I haven't listened to, read, responded to. Instantly felt better. Looked for the opportunity in the problem. Stuck in a queue. What's the opportunity here? Oh, to deal with some outstanding matters that I haven't had the time to. So that's a very simple one. But you could apply it to anything more serious. Let's say you've been dating someone. Obviously not relevant to you, David. But let's say you've been. Let's say you find yourself going for the same kind of bloke. Let's assume that you're dating a guy. And for the third time with a sort of third bloke along, you're like, oh God, not another sort of player. This is just so unfair. What's going on? Obviously, that could feel quite shit in the moment. What's the opportunity here? Okay, I'm noticing a pattern. I keep on going for these players. What can I learn here? Why do I keep on going for this type of person? What is it in me that is drawing me and attracting me to this sort of person? Do I even know what I'm looking for? What do I want? How can I get clarity on what I want? What resources can I engage with that might help me to work out what I want and deal with anything that's blocking me from what I want, or any weak spots that are drawing me back in again and again and again to the wrong sort of partner? And as soon as you get into that mindset, what's the positive learning in this? What's the opportunity in the problem? Everything changes. Not only do you feel more positive, more in control, but you will improve your life.
I like that. I think that is a really good shift. I've had variations of this theme that you're talking about as questions in my seminars, and people talk about, how do I see the world more positively, or how do I take on the challenges that I have in my life? And I like to draw a little diagram, and it's a circle within a circle, and the circle in the middle is you, and the circle around you is life. And these are your two spheres of influences. Everything in you circle, you can control. Mm-hmm. Everything in the life circle, you can influence, but you ultimately can't control. So you can't control what the weather's going to be like. You can't control what the next election result is going to be. You can't control when we have the next financial crash. You can't control whether your partner is going to leave you or not, or cheat on you or not, or whether your business is going to work or whether it's not going to work. These things you can't control. You can influence them to a certain degree. But what you can really control is you. You can choose how you see the world. You can choose how you respond to these events. So if the next election result doesn't go the way you want it to, if there is a financial crash, if your partner does leave you, there's nothing you can do about that. That's outside of your sphere of control. But what you can do is think, well, what am I going to do about this? What am I going to make of this situation? What am I going to do differently from this point on? How do I choose my personal narrative from this point forward? So I think it's really important to have these two spheres, the sphere of control, and the sphere of life, which is a sphere of influence. I'm not saying, yes, you can't control it, but when I say can't control, people think, oh, well, throw my hands up. I've just got to accept what life throws at you. No, you don't have to accept what life throws at you. You can influence it, but sometimes you don't get a choice about what happens either. All you can do is choose
Absolutely.
what happens to you.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I also find it's interesting that you said, I think you said that was quite popular in your workshops, did you?
Yeah, it's quite a popular sort of a frequently asked question, I guess, rather than popular or not.
Yeah. Because sometimes in workshops I do around mental health, we'll do an exercise around what's stressing people out, and then alongside that will be some questions. And one of the questions is, what are you in control of and what can't you control? And I'm always interested in asking the audience which of those questions really spoke to you, and more often than not they will always say that one. What can I control? What can't I control? And I think that comes at a level of acceptance and surrender in respect of the things you can't control. One guy said, commuting in London stresses me out so much, but I can't control it. So I've just got to let that go because it's consuming energy. It's a waste of energy. So I agree with you. It's obviously something that people do find powerful because we both noticed that in workshops.
Mm-hmm. So you've hinted to a couple of things. These are perhaps sort of shifts in perspective and kind of philosophies that you can adopt, looking at it from that respect. What else is there that we can do to improve resilience? It could be more philosophies, or perhaps some of the sort of more strategic technique kind of stuff.
I've got so many things. I'll tell you one of my personal favorites. Again, I'm sure something that you're very aware of, David. I remember the first time that I discovered what cognitive distortions were. It was, again, quite a life-changing moment. If you want to learn more about this, you can literally Google cognitive distortions article, and you'll get a really nice description. And this is something we go into in the mental health first aid courses I run as well. So some cognitive distortions that we all engage in an awful lot of the time are things like generalizations, catastrophizing, black and white thinking, negative mental filter. Let me give you a couple of quick examples. So a negative mental filter might be, let's say you do a work presentation and it's 98% superb, but one slide, maybe you stumble on your words. So obviously a healthy positive response would be like, that was really excellent. There's a positive learning there. But, we're imperfect. We're human. We're prone to be negative. So a more black and white response might be like, oh, God, that was awful. And you might say, well, why was it awful, Mel? Well, it was just all terrible. And then if you probe a little deeper, you might realize, actually, it was just me mumbling over my words on one slide out of, let's say, 14. Black and white thinking. Catastrophizing. Let's say you go for a job interview and you've always been fairly successful at interviews, but you don't get this one because somebody else with the same skill set but 20 years experience gets the job instead. So a catastrophizing response might be like, that's it, I'm done for. I'm never going to get a job that I want ever again. So a distorted view of reality. A generalization, I've definitely never thought this one, David, ever, not once. You're online dating and you're flipping through this vast catalogue, this vast sea of faces, maybe not quite stumbling upon the gem that you want in the timescale that you want. And you might find yourself thinking something very distorted, like, there are no good men left, for example, when actually you know that the reality is probably a bit more like Primark. You have to sift through a lot of maybe average products to find a gem. And then you'll feel victorious and elated. So there are some examples of very common cognitive distortions. Can you think of a time when you engaged in like a generalization, catastrophizing, black and white thinking, negative mental filter in, say, like the last month or so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll give you two answers, because as you were talking about that, I just thought of a conversation I've had really recently. It was one of my students for one of my courses was emailing me, and they've just kind of signed on, so they were giving me kind of their life story essentially, and what they're looking for, what's happened to things, and I won't give any personal details about what their story is, but a couple of different phrases popped up even in just this email that they'd sent, and one of them is, David, you no doubt think I'm a useless coward. So I replied back and I was like, how can you possibly know what I'm thinking? And is that the way that you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a useless coward, and you automatically assume that I see you the same way as in the story? So that was definitely a cognitive distortion. I was thinking of that as you were describing it. But I won't dodge the question. And the question is, did I have any of these in the last month or so? So what we've got generalization, we've got black or white thinking.
So that one, was mind reading that you mentioned, trying to
mind reading. Generalizations. I'm usually quite good at not generalizing.
There are also ones like fortune telling, where you're trying to kind of be like, imagine what's going to happen in a negative way.
Yeah. Okay, fun enough, just before we started recording, we were talking about speaking to audiences, and sometimes you have better audiences than others. Sometimes you have audiences that are really energetic, really engaged. It's really fun delivering a session, and you can tell that everyone's kind of really benefiting from it, and you're doing a lot of good work in that time that you have with them. And then there's audiences that aren't energetic, they aren't engaged, you don't feel that anything you're saying is getting through to them. And one of my kind of mental patterns that I sometimes have is, if I have an audience like that, I say, oh, well, just So I live in the city of Glasgow. I run events in different cities, but let's say I'm running an event in Glasgow. I'll say, well, there's just nobody who's interested in personal development in Glasgow. There's just nobody who's got the commitment and takes responsibility to change their lives. And I've spoken to an audience of maybe 16 people, and because those 16 people weren't engaged on that particular morning, I automatically assume that all of the other 500,000 people in the city aren't energetic, they aren't engaged, they don't have the commitment and the responsibility to make changes in their life, they don't have that motivation and passion to do something good with their lives and in the world. So that's a pattern that I confront quite a lot. So that is I suppose that is a little bit of a generalization / catastrophizing that one event didn't go well, so it's or wasn't the type of audience I wanted to speak to. So that automatically means that all of my audiences and all my events are going to be exactly the same. And I know they're not. I've been doing them for long enough to know that sometimes you have a good audience and sometimes not a good audience. It's like when you have a job. Some days you go into work and it's a good day at work, and sometimes you have a bad day at work. You just have to see those type of events as just like maybe a bad day at the office or a not ideal kind of perfect day at the office.
Absolutely, and it feeds into what you were saying before. The audience isn't something you have a great deal of control over. Yes, you can bring a certain energy, but certainly half the time when you do a workshop, you don't really know who's going to walk through the door, and you don't know what's going on. Maybe if you're in a company, the head of HR is there, or someone that people are worried about opening up around who is there, and it's got nothing to do with you at all.
Yeah,
that's a really good example. There we are. See, we all do it, don't we? It's like let's say I've got friends and clients who have maybe been really hurt in a relationship. And they might associate, say, certain behaviors with realities that aren't always dead certs. So, for example, I've got a friend who was in a new relationship, well, she still is, and the guy was at a wedding, her boyfriend, and she'd sent him a text and he hadn't replied 3 hours later. She started catastrophizing wildly. Why? Because the last 2 guys she'd been with weren't always that prompt getting back to her. And, in that situation, that was because they were off with other girls. Whereas this guy was just at a wedding having a lot of fun and was probably a bit tipsy and, busy socializing. So I think the important thing about these cognitive distortions is to recognize, firstly, we all engage in them. So don't beat yourself up about it. It's very normal. We wouldn't be human if we didn't. The most powerful first step is just recognizing when they're happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you're stepping back from your brain, we're not our thoughts, and recognizing, oh, I know what's happening here. I know exactly what's happening. Like, nice try, brain,
Yeah.
Kind of trying to call, I'm not going to buy into this bullshit, no way, no chance, nice try, I know what's happening here. And just recognizing that and labeling it in itself is very powerful, and it helps you sort of step out of that negative thought. And what it can also do is it can stop you from getting into that horrible cycle of rumination and that negative spiral that can really pull people down, sometimes in worst case scenarios, into actual sort of mental ill health, where they haven't learned the tricks for stepping out of those patterns. And that's learning those tricks for stepping out of those patterns is what cognitive behavioural therapy is all about, actually,
Mm-hmm.
which is used for lots of people. It's very successfully used on people with mild to moderate depression and anxiety. But you don't have to suffer from those illnesses to implement, to incorporate these into your life. I use these regularly, and I found them extremely empowering. So you can ask yourself some helpful questions, for example. So let's say the dating example, the thought pattern that I've definitely never had. There are no good men left. You might ask yourself some questions like, what would be a different way of looking at this? What evidence is there to support this? So I found that I developed like a really helpful kind of rebuffal mantra, which was, well, okay, what am I looking for? I'm looking for my soulmate here. Okay, and what do we know about soulmates? Well, we know that soulmates are very rare and that, we meet them every, once in a blue moon. Okay, so why am I that worried that I'm not meeting that many real gems online? Yeah, why am I that worried? It is rare to meet someone super special that really excites you. And suddenly I felt way better. So, joking aside, recognizing that distortion happening, asking yourself, what's the factual evidence for this? Like my friend who was catastrophizing that her boyfriend was off with someone. What's the factual evidence for this? Oh, I don't have any factual evidence. What's an alternative possibility? Well, he might be off drinking champagne. He might be quite tipsy. His phone might have died. All sorts of other alternative realities that could have instantly made her feel better. Obviously, if you're struggling and some of these techniques really aren't working, it may be that you do need a bit more support. It may be that you are in that slightly more, on the other side of the spectrum where you're maybe slightly more in that kind of mental ill health territory, and that's nothing to worry about. But it may be that you say you really need to engage in some actual cognitive behavioural therapy or alternative therapies, because there may be a deeper block that's keeping you emotionally stuck or entrenched that you might be able to work through nicely with some counselling, for example. But I do find that reading up on those cognitive distortions, I cannot recommend that enough. I really can't. In terms of what you can do when you recognise that distortion, so I've told you a couple of questions, but at that point, what you can do is you really want to be intercepting that cognitive distortion, that negative thought trap. Remember, it's a trap, it's out to get you. Don't be trapped. Is a cognitive intervention. And this is something that the Harvard Business Review talk about in a great book called Resilience. I love that, a cognitive intervention. And actually, I think it was Philip Seligman, a famous psychologist, who talks about the importance of cognitive interventions. So this could be anything, David. This could be, for example, the opportunity, like, okay, I'm feeling really shit. I'm in this negative thought loop. What's the opportunity and the problem? Boom, shift. It could be writing 3 things that you're grateful for, or just thinking of 3 things that you're grateful for. And immediately that shifts you out of a place, as you know, victimhood, negativity. It's not fair, my life is shit. So actually, I'm really grateful that I live in a nice flat that's warm, and I'm really happy that I've got a family that care when I feel down, for example. So that gratitude exercise can also be very helpful. I know it can sound quite cliche if you've never engaged in it, but as you know, Anthony Robbins talks about the power of gratitude. Fear and gratitude cannot coexist. So anytime you feel negative, anytime at all, just try it. Reserve judgment and just try it. What 3 things am I grateful for? And I guarantee you will feel an immediate shift. You'll feel more positive. You'll feel more resilient, more able to overcome that challenge that you're currently faced with.
I think what's really important to realize about your thoughts is that thoughts are just interpretations of reality. They're not reality. In kind of my work, I refer to them as stories. They're narratives. They're scripts that you have in your mind. By the way, this works both ways. In terms of when you have positive thoughts and happy thoughts, they are also just interpretations. They're also just stories. Sometimes when you have a thought of, I feel really confident right now, I'm really motivated, or I'm having a good time, or I feel in love, those are also just stories. They're just also interpretations. They're not necessarily the real picture, the real deal. So the way I look at it is, well, because all of our thoughts are basically interpretations, very few of them are actually based in reality. You can choose whether you want to write yourself a negative story, or you can choose whether you want to write yourself a positive story. And if both of them are stories, and if both of them are just interpretations, why not choose to interpret things in a happy way? Because at least then you feel better about what's going on, even if that is also just a story that you're writing in your mind. So I think recognizing that your thoughts are just thoughts, your thoughts aren't truth, your thoughts aren't reality, they are just your interpretation of what's going on in life is, I don't know if it's necessarily empowering, possibly it's really empowering, but I think it's just useful to remember that what is going on in your heads is just this swirl of random thoughts that keep on coming up, and you get to choose what thoughts you want to pay attention to, you get to choose what thoughts you want to put power into, you get to choose what thoughts you want to take action or even take inaction based upon.
Absolutely. That's so true. You're so right, David. Again, it comes back to control. We're so much more in control than we realize, in control of our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. Our thoughts are up, that we're programmed to be negative. That in itself, I mean, what a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
We're not taught the tools. We're not taught the tools at school, which we should be. By the way, kids, you will feel negative again and again. Let's teach you some little tricks. How to tripwire this silly little system called the brain. Yeah. Something else that I found equally inspiring as what you just said, David, is the revelation that we can, if we feed our subconscious anything enough, even if it's bullshit, if we feed it anything enough, it will simply believe us. It's like a hungry beast. So if you sit there the whole time saying, like, I'm a worthless, ugly girl, for example, you will start to believe that. And obviously you'll start to feel that and behave in a way that transmits that. I'm worthless and ugly, even if you're a stunning supermodel who's, could have any guy or girl in the world. if you start practicing controlling that sort of negative inner monologue and just feeding yourself more positive thoughts, again, you'll start to feel it. You'll start to behave in a different way. And the thing is, you don't even have to believe it to say it to yourself. You will start believing it. So you might be forcing yourself every morning. Like, let's say you're, I don't know, I do this a lot, for example. Let's say I've got quite a lot on and I'm beginning to feel a bit stressed and I'm like, oh God, I've got loads to do. I'll actually start saying to myself, whispering or not whispering and just saying it internally, like, you're doing a really good job. Like, keep going. Well done. Good job. Like, that's it. You've got the first thing done. Excellent. Well done. So it's like I'm coaching myself. And sometimes clients are quite shocked when I reveal this because, as you've probably found, David, sometimes people assume that if you're a coach, oh, you're perfect. You don't have any struggles. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. When actually the reverse is true. Most coaches have simply learned fantastic ways for conquering all the stuff we're talking about, and we just feel passionately about sharing it. So I think remembering, as you say, we're not our thoughts. We can feed our subconscious anything we want. And the more we feed it positive stuff, the more we start to feel positively. But it's a practice.
Absolutely, yeah. You've started to touch upon some ideas of how we can enhance and improve our well-being. I don't know if you've covered them already, but I do know that you have a 5 ways to well-being. Would you mind sharing with us any of the 5 ways that haven't been one of the ways that you've described so far?
Oh, that's a great one. I've got a mental health manual right by my feet that has the 5 ways to well-being in it, David. So one is giving back. Now, this could be anything. It could be, and I do this a lot, and I get weird looks because it's terribly un-British. It could be that you're at a checkout and you think, gosh, that girl looks really pretty in that raspberry pink top. And you might say, you look really great in that colour. And she'll probably nearly fall off her seat because most British people don't say these things. So giving back, making someone smile, science shows us that it actually improves our mood. So that's a simple day-to-day trick. But you can equally take it further with volunteering, for example. And again, you might get some resistance, maybe from friends and family. I know I did in the past. Why are you volunteering for Mindline? That's not paid. Waste of time. You should be, earning money. And I remember thinking, funny, because I feel that this could be extremely beneficial. And actually, just because I'm not being paid, I'm being trained by amazing counsellors in listening skills. This is gold. This is way above payment. So volunteering is also proven to really improve our happiness. And one of the beauties of giving as well is if you're feeling a bit, I don't know, in not such a great space, it actually takes you out of yourself. And it reminds you that there are people who are also struggling or much worse off than you, frankly, a lot worse off than you. And it makes you feel grateful. It's like that quote. I can't remember it exactly. I'm sure you've read it. Something like, you may think you're having a bad day, but there are people who would give anything to have your life.
Yeah. That's something that I use as quite a good mood shifter. We have kind of like a local big issue seller who's kind of like a local celebrity because he's so friendly. He's always saying hi. He's always asking how your day is going. He's essentially a really good salesman. And so there's plenty of times where I'll just kind of walk past him and sort of say hi or good morning or whatever. But if I'm feeling really low, I'll go up and I'll buy a big issue. Now, a big issue is like £2.50, and usually I'll give him £3 if I've got coins or a £5 if I've got a note, and I'll just tell him just keep the change. And like that little act of giving, I know that he's kind of like got a quota of big issues that he wants to sell, so that's one less that he has to do. It's a little bit of money for himself. It's almost like a return on all the sort of like friendliness and stuff that he gives out. And it's kind of like that little act. It costs me £3 or £5, and to be honest, the money doesn't really matter. Just that act of kind of going and sort of helping someone else out. And he stands there in all weathers, and we live in Glasgow, and the weather's usually pretty shite, to be honest. It's cold, windy, it's wet, and he stands out there in all weathers, sort of like selling the big issue. So for me, just that kind of little act of thinking of someone other than myself and kind of giving some good energy to someone else, it always makes me feel better. So getting out my own story and putting myself into someone else's story.
Absolutely right. And I love that example because when you think about, there'll be someone else out there who would kill to have your life. Not many people would be killed to stand out in the Glasgow rain selling the big issue. That, some people do actually feel a level of hopelessness and challenge that is just actually really quite hard to overcome. So yeah, I bet that makes a massive difference to him, having that bit of support from a stranger, frankly.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
So that was number 1, give back.
Yes.
What else?
So there are some other good top tips. I mean, these are very sort of well-being generic, but they are very true. So obviously one is exercise. Again, Anthony Robbins says motion equals emotion. What do we know for sure? And this is another good little question to ask yourself if you're ever wobbling or feeling overwhelmed. Stop and ask yourself, what do I know for sure right now? Keep it simple. So let's say you're feeling really sluggish. Let's say you've just broken up with someone that you thought was the one or really special, and you're like, oh, I just feel awful. I'm just hopeless. You can ask yourself, what do I know for sure? Might be a couple of things. One might be, I know for sure that I will meet someone new at some stage. But in terms of ways of well-being, another might be, what do I know for sure? I know for sure that if I move, I will feel better. Motion equals emotion. Whether it's a walk around the block, a walk to the shop to buy something to eat, or going to the gym, motion equals emotion. It releases those natural kind of endorphins. So yeah, that's a very obvious one, but it is a very helpful one. Another one, connecting with, high quality people. Harvard scientists show us that high quality relationships have a huge impact on our well-being and even our life expectancy.
Yeah.
So, being selective about who you connect with generally in life, but when you feel down, I think is hugely important. Social network really boosts mental health. A lack of social network, isolation, loneliness undermines mental health. So yeah, again, another obvious one, but I'm sure you'd agree can have a hugely positive bearing.
Yeah, they've found that there's 2 really interesting findings. One is that loneliness will kill you faster than smoking. It's a greater risk to health than smoking is. And on the smoking example, we are very influenced by the people we spend time with. And this goes up to 3 degrees of separation for all lifestyle habits, for life circumstances. So if you have a friend who has a friend who has a friend who is a smoker, you are more likely to be a smoker, even though there's this person 3 degrees of separation away who you've never met. Their lifestyle habits and their life circumstances have an influence and an effect on you, which sounds really pessimistic at first, but also works the other way around. If you've got a friend of a friend of a friend who runs a very successful company, or they're a great philanthropist, or they have a loving, happy family, or they themselves are a very happy person, then that means that you too feed off of that kind of down the social chain. So having a really clear idea of, first of all, your immediate social circle, where the effect is most powerful, but even starting to think kind of beyond that. How many people can you sort of get into your sphere of influence who are where you want to be in life, who are the type of person you want to be, feel the things that you want to feel, have the type of lifestyle you want to have. So that's a mega one. That's kind of that's almost like the strongest research into happiness that I've found, actually, is apart from happy people think differently to unhappy people, is happy people have far stronger relationships and connections than unhappy people.
That sounds fascinating. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. You probably heard I think it's a quote from someone, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with.
Yeah.
As you say, people who lift you up, radiators, not drains. Again, people who turn towards you, not away from you. We know that in marriages, what's it called, the 5 horsemen or something similar.
The four horsemen. Yeah. Criticism, contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling. I think I might have got defensiveness wrong. I think that's something else. Criticism, contempt, stonewalling. No, it is defensiveness. Yeah, defensiveness is when you're like, no, I didn't say that. And then stonewalling is just don't respond at all, which is men's usual reaction. Actually, men usually stonewall when they're getting emotionally uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And as we see a lot, unfortunately, these days with online dating, ghosting is very common and extremely debilitating for people on the receiving end. But I mentioned the 4 horsemen because it's the same with high quality friends. When at those compromising moments in life, high quality people turn towards you, not away from you. They hear you, they lift you up. They're your strength in that moment of weakness. And we're imperfect. We all struggle sometimes. Resilience isn't about perfection. It's about learning to adapt to challenges. To having, as you say, those high quality people who lift you up in those moments. I mean, we've all got them. I'm sure you have at least 2 or 3 friends who come to mind. I sure do. And I know that in those moments of wobble, my mood can shift dramatically from sharing how I feel and listening to their advice. I mean, yeah, they might as well be paid coaches, to be honest, for the value they add, or their listening skills are so excellent, they might as well be counsellors, because they are that gifted at helping you feel understood. So yes, I think I'm really glad that we touched on this one, because it sounds so generic, doesn't it? Oh, connecting with great people. But it is, like you say, so important, so important. And I just like to flag as well, because I know I have so many friends in their mid-30s in that position. With dating can easily trigger catastrophizing and generalizing, but please hold out. Do not settle, because we know what you and I just shared. Your choice of mate, as well as your choice of friends, is essential to your life happiness and your, life expectancy. If you're struggling, please look up a great guy on Instagram called Mark Groves. He's got a great Instagram feed. It's called Create the Love. And I have it on good authority from a very good friend who's a coach and an amazing, inspiring girl, that he's got an amazing course on love, actually. And by the way, I don't receive any commission for, telling you about this. I just fully trust this friend. He's got a great course on love. If you're struggling and you've got blocks, please look up Mark Graves, because apparently it's excellent. And I think it's reasonably affordable as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Another resource that I would really recommend, it's lovely, and I play it in my workshops. If you go onto YouTube and you Google WOW, Wheel of Wellbeing, it stands for Wheel of Wellbeing. It's brilliant. It's 3 minutes long. It's really cute little cartoons on, again, some of the stuff we're talking about, but it's all in really animated, lovely visuals, short, sweet, and yeah, touches on some important statistics. Very user-friendly. So I would definitely recommend looking up that one, WOW, Wheel of Wellbeing.
Okay, so we have covered. We've covered three. We've covered exercise. We just covered connection there. I've forgotten the first one that we've covered already. I know we've covered three.
Oh, giving back, or
Giving back. Yeah. I was like, I know we've covered it. I just can't remember. Yeah, so we've covered 3 of the 5 ways.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other 2?
I'm just thinking, because I look at a few. I look at there's the 5 ways to well-being, and then there are other acronyms like Great Dream. I'm not going to get my book out. I'm just going to be holistic. But I know that another really important one is goal setting. Setting a goal, focusing on growth, moving from where you are now to where you want to be. This is something Liggy Webb mentions in her resilience book as well. And it sounds so, again, trite, cliche, obvious, but it's super important to have goals. It's a measurable goal. So setting a goal, whether it's with a friend, an accountability buddy, or a coach, having goals is essential to our sense of growth, our sense of worth, our sense of achievement. Really, really important.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to shift gears a little bit. We've been focusing on resilience quite a lot. And I know you have many strings to your bow. You've got so much to talk about in terms of, we've been talking about relationships and dating quite a lot. We've been talking about well-being and mental health, focusing on resilience so far. I know that also since we last spoke, you've been doing a lot more career coaching and helping people to make career changes and find jobs and work and employment that are more suited to them. Would you like to explain a little bit more about what the work that you do is here with career coaching?
So generally, I help people, of a variety of sort of backgrounds, ages, stages, find their dream careers. So obviously, we all know people, probably ourselves included, in the past, who were unhappy, frustrated, disconnected from our careers. And obviously, that can have a huge knock-on impact on our day-to-day happiness, because for most of us, career is 5 days a week. And again, much like happiness and resilience, we're rarely taught the tools for identifying the right career. So things like working out what our values and drivers are. And by that, I mean the things that we need to feed to find purpose and meaning in our life. So for one person, making money might be essential. And if they're not making a lot of money in their work, they might just feel terrible about themselves. For someone else like me, work-life balance is really important. It's why I left my career as a lawyer and moved into something with more entrepreneurial scope and more sort of flexible working hours. So as a career coach, I basically help people discover tools for working out, finding careers that really fulfill them. So helping clients work out their values, which I've just mentioned, is one way of doing that. Also, just giving people the time and space to work out obvious things like their strengths and their skills. like their passions. So many people, and this probably doesn't apply to you, David, but so many people, particularly younger people, have passions that they discount. Often, and we hear this so much because parents say, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. You should do this. Whenever you hear a should, as we know, you should question yourself, because a should usually isn't a want, and a want is what carries you forward because you know what your why is. It connects to that what's your why question. So helping people to not minimize their passions, but to stop them in that conversation that they've rushed through and say, hang on a minute, pause. You lit up when you mentioned that. You look so alive. You look so excited. And they may never have given us a moment's thought. And it may be something as simple as, oh no, but my dad said that you can't make money, doing what you love. Okay, pause. Let's just stop and examine that statement. Or my family say this isn't a proper job. I've got these massive American sponsors for, hiking Everest and being the only woman to trek across the Arctic. But, my family just say that, it's sort of bullshit. And when am I going to get a proper job? And then I say things like, well, how do you know that your family are right? And suddenly there's this sort of penny drop moment of, wow, I guess I don't. So in essence, the career coaching is helping people drill down into the fundamentals that help them make positive, confident decisions which align with their values and their skills, their passions, their strengths. And then it's sort of exploring different options and finding a short list and eventually, a decisive area that really fits.
I'm intrigued to explore this a little bit more, because I find that if there's one single biggest group that I find myself working with, is it's so often people who are working in a job that is not fulfilling for them. It might be okay, it might be fine on certain days, but it isn't what they really want to do. And it seems to me that so many people get stuck into this type of work where they just sort of fall into it, and then they just go through the motions for ages and ages, and they eventually reach a year that ends in a 0, or they have some other kind of like life event that makes them look at the work they're doing and they go like, holy shit, why have I been doing this for so long? This isn't me, this isn't what I want to do. So I'm intrigued to delve into this a little bit more. Why do you think so many people, it seems to me that so many people this happens to, why do you think so many people end up in a job that they don't like and they're not supposed to do?
Good question. I think there are probably a few leading factors. One is literally that stage when you leave uni or school and your parents saying you should do this, and we're used to listening to our parents as young adults or before adults, and we don't have the knowledge about different careers, so we listen to others. I think successful job search, I know I keep mentioning dating, is very similar to dating. You don't just marry the first person you meet usually, do you? And, you and I have spoken a lot about this. Sometimes you might end up marrying someone that you never thought you'd marry. A successful, positive, aligned decision relies on market research, whether it's market research into a variety of different girls or guys for dating, or market research into, commercial markets, different jobs. So rather than listening to parents, which many of us do, what we really need to be doing instead is going out and actually exploring the market, whether through short work experience, internships, or the golden nugget that a lot of people don't engage in, simply reaching out to people for chats. Because if you reach out to someone who looks interesting, is in an area that you think might be of interest, and they're hopefully a good people person, they've got more experience than you in that area, they'll probably also not only be able to answer your questions, but give you a sense of where they might see you. They might say, do you know what, David? You're very good at listening to people. You're very inquiring. You're fascinated by the human condition. Have you ever thought about being a coach, David? Or even a public speaker, because you're terribly eloquent. You might have someone who's like, oh, my dad's a salesperson. He said I should do sales. And, the person you're chatting to might say, can I level with you? Can I be really honest? You don't have a sales personality, I don't think, because you've told me that you're an extrovert and you feel drained being around people. But what I can see is you've got an excellent analytical mind. Have you thought about marketing, for example? So researching the market is something that a lot of people don't do. Instead, they listen to their parents. Something else that people do, I'm sure we've all been guilty of it, is sort of falling into things because they sort of tick boxes, or maybe they appeal to the ego. I used to work at a law school, and you get a lot of students naturally going into law. And when you say to them in a mock interview, why do you want to be a lawyer? Often, or certainly a fair amount of the time, they wouldn't know. They've done it because probably it sounds glamorous and it sounds great, or you might say, so what do lawyers do day to day? And they don't know, because maybe they haven't done any work experience. All they know is it's well paid, well respected, and it sounds great. When the realities are, it's, you know, highly competitive, and yes, very rewarding if you're the right fit, but it, you know, it can be quite, it can be less glamorous than you might think. So I think a lack of sort of information about jobs and just falling into them is one. I think being led by parents is another. As I say, ego feeds into maybe the former as well. Doing, again, that sort of old chestnut, doing what we feel we should do rather than what we want to do. And just because you don't know what you want to do, don't panic. It's normal. Why would you know about a market, about different markets you know nothing about? I didn't know about PR until I went and did some luxury PR and thought, for me, this is untenable for me. I couldn't possibly smile if someone gave me back a damaged silver tray worth £70,000 because they carelessly ruined it. You know, that's not tenable to me, because integrity matters to me. Whereas when I went and did work experience in a law firm, I could feel it. I felt excited. I felt excited about going in. I was enjoying writing, researching, analysing, communicating, meeting lots of people. So I'd say to people, don't panic because you don't know what your why is. Go out and explore, like dating. Go and explore, see what works for you, see what you like about that job or that work experience, just like what you like about that guy or girl. You know, see what's frustrating you, because your frustrations are a barometer for what you need more of. You might think, oh God, I just hate being in a dark room and not talking to anyone. So what's the opposite of that? I want to be in a room with windows where I get to chat to people and meet people, maybe a lot of people. So it's sort of about deconstructing rather than going for the job title, which so many young people do, and the glamour and the glitz and the ego. It's about getting beneath the job title, and really it's about asking yourself, what kind of things would I want to do day to day? You know, what is it that I've really enjoyed? Even simple questions like, what is it that I've really enjoyed at school? Oh, I always loved writing. Great, okay, so we know you love writing. I always wish that I could do more researching at work. I do these reports, but they're terribly short. I just wish that I could write long reports and, you know, really give my full day to that. Okay, great. Well, that might be something. And often clients will look really surprised, like, gosh, you're right, it might be. Oh no, but I couldn't be on the same pay scale doing that. I'll say, how do you know? And more often than not, they will be able to be. But again, they just haven't had the resources and tools to understand how to research and how to find these alternatives.
I really liked what you said about this whole idea of market research. And I was being interviewed for a podcast, being in your seat rather than in mine. And just last week, actually, no, it was earlier this week. It's only a couple of days ago. And they asked me what my purpose in life was, or what I thought my purpose in life was. And I said, it's really interesting that you asked that, because if you'd asked me that question a year ago, I would have given you a very definite answer. I said my purpose is to be an author, and it's to be a speaker and a podcaster, and teach people about life transformation and personal development and motivation and psychology. I would have given you all these very definite answers. But actually, now that you're asking me this question a year later, what I recognize now is that I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my real grand life purpose is, because I'm only 26 years old. How could I possibly know what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life? How do I possibly know what I'm capable of in the rest of my life? If I swap those digits around, if I turn 26 into 62, how can I possibly know who I'm going to be, what I'm going to be capable of, what my position in life is going to be at 62? And if I think that I do know that, well, that's actually very arrogant of me. And not only very arrogant of me, but actually, how can I possibly know what I don't know already? If I'm not at this level of character, if I'm not at this level of service, if I'm not at this level of the potential in the work that I can do, well, I don't know any different. All that I can look at is my perspective right now. Now, I know that my path involves being an author and being a speaker and being a podcaster and teaching people about all those concepts that I was just talking about. I know that's my path, and I know that's the right way to go. But in terms of where that's actually leading me, I don't know what I'm going to be capable of in 10 years' time. I don't know what the world is going to look like in 10 years' time. I don't know what needs are suddenly going to arise. I don't know what opportunities are suddenly going to arise. So actually, I don't know what my purpose is, but I know the path to my purpose. That is clear to me. I know that I'm on the right path to what I'm doing, and all the skills that I developed and all the work that I'm doing now is taking me in the direction that I'm supposed to go. But in terms of actually where I'm going to end up and where I'm supposed to end up, I don't have any idea. And I think that's quite an encouraging thought for most people who feel like, I don't know what my purpose is, I don't know where I'm meant to go in life. Actually, none of us should know. All we should know is the path that we're supposed to take, and things are going to reveal themselves along the way. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey, as the Chinese tells us.
Very well said. And most people, I think, have 3 different job changes anyway, so it's nothing to panic about. And underneath all that, I mean, I like what you say, because you're very much a make a difference person. A lot of people in our sort of space are. So I would probably hedge my bets and feel fairly comfortable imagining that whatever you do, you will be making a difference, whether it's writing, speaking, coaching, because that feels like quite a leading value of yours and mine. But there may be other values at play. And also, don't forget, our values, our drivers, they shift over time. So, for example, in the last year, I found that stability has been much higher up my list, so earning more money. I've been surprised that when I've earned a little bit more money now and then, I've quite liked it. Not because that money per se matters, but because it feeds one of my leading values, which is freedom and travel. And I know that when I'm free to travel, I feel most connected to myself, most inspired, and I start having new ideas about new job roles, places to live, things to do, which help me grow in the way that you're talking about, help me develop down that journey. So I remember sitting in a hot tub in Yosemite, in a hostel, by the way. This wasn't a 5-star hotel, looking out on this beautiful sort of vista. And I just felt so inspired by having been in nature all day. And I just started thinking, maybe I'd like to go and do workshops in New York. I don't know where that thought came from, but I'll tell you, it was strong and it came from somewhere. So, our paths can constantly shift, and that's wonderful. Life is a journey, as you say. I think the important thing is awareness. And if listeners or clients feel confused about who they are, that's when, doing a bit of work, whether it's sort of getting some coaching or otherwise, engaging in meditation or other sort of things can help give you a little bit more clarity, just getting to know yourself a bit better, having someone point out, you might not be aware, but you're minimizing that passion, and, you're very blessed to have a passion. And if you follow your passions in life, generally you can be extremely successful. So
yeah, I think another key thing to look at here is you aren't always going to enjoy your work, and you aren't always going to enjoy aspects of your work. Like, for example, I really enjoy having these conversations and doing these interviews, editing and uploading them, and actually doing the mechanics and admin involved in how to podcast. Not so much. I'd rather that somebody else would do that, and hopefully someday I will have somebody else doing that for me. So should I not do a podcast because I don't enjoy some aspects of it? Well, no, overall, running a podcast gives me far more fulfillment than the kind of the niggles and the stress, to over exaggerate it, really, the stress of having to do all the sort of admin-y technical sort of stuff that comes with podcasts. But then for other people, yes, they're not enjoying their work, and absolutely they shouldn't be doing that. So how do you think you tell the difference? So how do you know that someone is ready to change their career? How do you know that someone should change their job rather than just try and find more enjoyment within that job?
That's a very good question, David. I'm going to bring it back to dating again, because honestly, I used to say this to students, there are so many parallels between jobs and dating. You're in a relationship, it's generally good. There are some less good bits. Well, we all know that that's relationships. There will be some less good bits. I think it's when a couple of things, when a pattern starts emerging over time, and you just keep on noticing the same niggle coming up again and again. And that might manifest in different ways. It might manifest in waking up with a knot in your stomach, for example, just feeling a bit sick, like, oh, there's something a bit off, or sleeping badly over a period of time because you're so stressed that it's actually affecting your well-being. But I think we have to be careful as well, because, for example, there could be other factors at play, like having a boss that's not very nice who could be affecting your well-being levels. So it might be more about the boss or the corporate environment, or the other sort of, if you might not be in a corporate environment, there might be a clash. So, for example, let's say you might be in, you might be at a Magic Circle law firm like Linklaters, and you might be enjoying the work, but ultimately feeling quite unsure because you don't enjoy maybe working really long hours, because the value of family is really important to you, and you're not able to see your family very much, or your boyfriend or girlfriend. So in that situation, you might feel subpar, but you might find that if you move to, say, a smaller firm, a high street firm, or a regional firm, oh, actually, I'm feeling all kinds of better now. So I think it's important to try and deconstruct what's underneath those niggles, unless you have a real sense of instinct about it. And you might have a really strong instinct. You might just, for me, I'm not going to name any names, but it was probably looking at a boss and thinking, I don't aspire to be like you. And I've looked at enough partners in law firms to know, and as a woman, law is quite a difficult one to be in if you want to have a family as well. Some jobs you can feasibly work part-time. The model's changed a bit now, so there are alternatives there a little bit, but it's quite tough. And I just sort of thought, well, I just can't see how this is going to be sustainable for me. So for me, it was a very clear decision, because I absolutely knew that work-life balance and just having fun at that stage of my life at sort of 30 was essential. The thought of not being able to go on dates, for example, or to see my friends, was, and the constant repetition of having to cancel plans in the evening. In the end, it had me in tears, when I was working on a Saturday and just thinking that I'm not feeling good. I'm actually beginning to feel very frustrated, bitter, and I know this isn't going to change. So I need to change something. I'm not in control of this, so I need to take control. But it will be different for different people. My top tip would be trusting your instinct. If you feel that something's off, as my American friend would say, something's off, Mel. And if you're unsure, don't panic. Either talk to a really good friend who's an excellent listener, enlist the help of a coach, potentially someone that you can find that space with to just properly talk, just explore your feelings, because you'll be surprised when you have the space to talk what you realise.
So if you have this realization and you know that it's not just the boss, it's not just the company, it's not just the field of work, you know that this whole gig isn't right for you, and you need to change career and you need to make that transition. What's the process that you then take someone through? How do you help them find the right place to go? And then most importantly, also be able to make that jump, because that can be the difficult part of the process as well. You might say, and a lot of people do have this, where they say, I know what I want to do, I just don't know what the steps are to get there. I know that I want to be an author, or I know I want to start a business, or I know that I want to start a charity, but I don't know how I can possibly leave my job and leave all that security and leave that monthly paycheck that comes in all the time. And I don't know how I can make a book work. I don't know how I can make my business work. I don't know how I can make that charity sustainable. What's the process that you take people through in order to make that transition?
So broadly speaking, it's very holistic. There are 3 steps: clarify, qualify, implement. So clarify is getting clear. Until we have clarity, we could just be swimming around and being very confused and overwhelmed. So usually initially there'll be a session really getting to know the person, their career history, their worries, their goals, their fears, so they get really clear on, what their expectations are, what they want. Then usually I will focus on helping someone work out their values or their drivers. So as I've mentioned, the things that give their life purpose and meaning. So for one client, it might be money, family, traveling, internationalism. For another client, it might be personal development, variety, making a difference. So it's really essential that clients get clear on what their values and drivers are, because it may be that one career is perfect for them, but for the fact that it's going to conflict with their leading driver. So let's say, like, I'm really suited to law. I'm analytical, I love researching, I love writing, I love meeting a variety of people. But law in big firms conflicts with the leading driver and work-life balance. So, okay, there's a conflict there. So getting clear on those values is essential, because sometimes clients will identify their values and they'll be quite surprised because they'll realize that the life they're leading is conflicting with some of those needs. And that gap is where where you need to kind of realign your life in alignment with those needs. And basically when you manage to do that, you feel happier. It's that simple. Life flows. You kind of get that sense of joy back, that momentum, that motivation. When you're feeling very stuck and frustrated, it's because somewhere you're leading a life in a way that's jarring with some core needs there, usually quite high up the needs list, the values list. So having done that, usually what I do is I usually then drill down a little bit with the client. So we'll create a table, we'll list the values and needs in priority order, because that can have a bearing. So let's say, for example, money is top of your list, but you found a perfect job, but it's not going to be well paid. Well, that's probably not going to work for you then. So we'll put the values in priority order. will try and work out their purpose in one statement. Like what's their highest purpose. So I always try and encourage people, morbid as it sounds, to think about being at the end of their life, how would they want to be remembered? Because that will underpin everything. It will underpin what your why is. So for me, if people said to me, she helped me be happier, or she helped me work out what made me happy, I would feel super happy. So that's my purpose, really. So what are your values? What's your purpose? What are your skills and strengths? And we all have these, even if you think you don't. And that's important because in every job description they will list certain skills and strengths, and you need to have examples of those. And then we'll look at your passions, so your interests. Again, what's your why? You have to be passionate if you want to excel in something, or at least enjoy it. Not everyone is passionate, and maybe some people aren't as passionate anyway, so it's not as important. But identifying your passions can be revealing. And finally, we'll identify a series of options, so career options that we'll look into. And this is just the beginning. So just literally a list of possible options that will have come out of those initial sessions. So that's the first phase, clarify. Qualify is the next phase, where we sort of start jumping into the research. So this is the research in the market, just like we do dating. You can't possibly find your soulmate without going on quite a few dates, or at least a few. So this is where we start researching into these different options through a variety of different means, online, in person, otherwise. And from that research, stuff will come out of it like, oh, actually, I didn't realise that there were different routes into that career, or that the person with that job title, I don't know, maybe there are 3 people with the same job title, but actually their day-to-day jobs are very different. So it's really bottoming out. Okay, so what does that job look like? Have I got the right idea? And it's identifying buzzwords that excite you, like, oh, I feel excited right now. Great. Why is that? Oh, because there'd be loads of research day to day, and I'd be constantly meeting new people. Great. Note that down, because you need that in your dream job description. Equally noticing things that turn your stomach. That's something we don't want to have in a dream job description. So it's building that dream job description from the bottom, not the job title. So that you're kind of building the meat underneath. That's how you end up making the right decision. Now, where was I? Yeah, so the research process is obviously really essential. And then you find that you narrow this list of options down to a short list, and you can get further clarity through in-person meetings, maybe work experience and otherwise. Now, you might notice that there are some skills gaps as you go, which might initially panic you, but depending on how big the gap is, obviously, if you want to be a psychologist and the skills gap is I'd need to do a 4-year degree, for one person that might be too much. For someone else, they might think, great, I'll do this, or I'll do it part-time alongside other work. So that research is important because we can feel attractions to things just like we can to people, dating. But when we look at the cold hard reality, we think actually you'd be a really bad idea, or that job, it ain't going to work for me because I don't want to spend 4 years training, before we even getting sort of on the job training. So we take quite a structured approach to that research until we basically crystallize it down into maybe 3 options. And it might be at that stage, depending on the stage that someone is in life, that they want to go and do some work experience, some internships, some temp work. Some people like to jump into permanent work. Everybody's different. And then the kind of final stage is sort of implementing those revelations. And that might be through supporting people with applications, CVs, covering letters. It's all a game. You just have to learn how to play it, what boxes to tick. So much is, preparation, meeting opportunity. As Zig Ziglar says, that's the definition of success, really, in my view. Very few people just fall into things and are just naturally brilliant. You prepare and the opportunity comes along and you shine.
Something you've been saying throughout talking about the process, mentioned your own values, and you said that one of your values was freedom and traveling, and you talked about that moment sitting in the hot tub, Yosemite, and you have been traveling a lot this year, trying to pin you down for this interview has been one of the hardest things I've ever done. I swear, like every time I see a picture on social media, it's just you in another country doing amazing things, which is obviously something that you have engineered and designed because it's a really important value for you. How have you created the freedom and the opportunity to have been able to do so much traveling this year?
So a very potted history which will inspire anyone feeling disillusioned about their career. I knew that I wanted to go into coaching. I wanted to try, and initially I thought I'd like to work at universities part-time because then I can be a career coach there and have my own business. Perfect. Then I have the stability, which is a value, but also the freedom, which is another value. So when I was living in Bristol, I got in touch with a recruiter he said, "Sweetheart, I've got this amazing temping opportunity for you at Bristol University. It's an admin role in procurement." And I thought, "Oh, Mark, that sounds horrendous. I don't even know what procurement is." And he was like, "Sweetheart, trust me, just get in there and network your little ass off, and you'll, network your way into the careers team." Well, that's exactly what happened. I'm not going to lie, David. That admin procurement role was soul destroying. Not always, but often. I know that the lady won't be listening, but the lady who was working immediately above me was far less intelligent than me and spoke to me like I was stupid, which I found very difficult. Luckily, the lady at the top got me. The point is, sometimes you have to bide your time. So I recognized the amazing opportunity of getting into a leading university. So I took that. I initially went for an interview for a role in the careers sort of coaching team that I didn't get because someone else with 20 years experience got it. But I asked for feedback. I wasn't too proud to ask for feedback, and it was extremely helpful. And one was, "You haven't done workshops." So I went away and started doing workshops, even though I didn't know what I was doing. I thought, well, I'm only going to improve. Then I got back in touch with the lady who rejected me, feeling extremely embarrassed, but I pushed myself. And she happened to be looking again to fill that role and said, "We'd like to interview you." And I got the job. So that was my way in. So I got that job at Bristol. And from that, as you can imagine, a lot of doors opened. From there, I got a job at a law school as a career consultant, which was fantastic because I got way more workshop experience and a lot more coaching experience. But I then also started doing workshops for other organizations around mental health and coaching for other organizations, mainly around career coaching. And I started to feel really overwhelmed with workload and quite burnt out. So I thought, "Cripe, something has got to shift," which meant letting go of the law school coaching job. So yeah, again, I went with my gut. I knew that I really enjoyed helping people uncover their purpose. I really enjoyed doing workshops, and that felt like the priority in my gut. So that's what I pursued. As it happened, it also really, as you say, fitted with my value on travel and freedom, because I do like being able to go on holiday when I want. Obviously, if you're an employee, you have X amount of time a year. So yeah, that also fed in nicely. So that's sort of how I facilitated that, really. So I guess I knew that I wanted to get more workshop experience with other companies. I knew I wanted to, for example, do some coaching at other unis. So I wrote speculative letters off to lots, one including the London School of Economics. Then got in there to do some part-time work around applications advising, helping students craft great applications, cover letters, CVs. And again, I stayed in touch with the lady, hopefully made a good impression on her. And now I'm going back in there this September to work, 1 day a week career coaching. So double the money at a higher level, much more rewarding for me. So it takes commitment. You have to know what you want, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there. That job wasn't advertised. 40% of jobs aren't, but I wrote to them and I gave thought to what I was writing, why I was passionate about them. And most people won't write speculatively, so you'll stand out, particularly if you write with, passion and you can really express why you are interested in that role in that organisation. So that's my sort of short-potted path, really. And it wasn't just falling straight into my dream scenario. It's taken, some real hard graft and a willingness to build, bridge the skills gap, really.
Mm-hmm. So where does that leave you now in terms of, because I think a lot of people have this dream of, I'm going to sit on the beach with my laptop and I'm going to crank out a course or an email or something like that, and all the money is just going to flow in. And the reality doesn't work like that. You can have that work-life balance, but you really need to design that and be intentional about it. You still need to work hard and you still need to do lots of different things, and you've got lots of different commitments. But even though you have that work and you have those commitments, you have been able to make all this free time. How do you go about doing that? And it's all very well having this value of work-life balance and freedom and travel, but you've actually been able to embrace it and live it. What has been the difference for you in that respect? How have you managed to do it?
When you say how have you managed to do it, are you looking for me to what do you want to know exactly that I haven't told you?
So you might have this free time on the calendar potentially, where let's say you are at LSE and only need to go in 1 day a week to do the work and make it happen. There's 4 days of the week that you could spend well, I was going to say watching the Jeremy Kyle show. Of course, you can't do that anymore. But you could sit on the sofa and you could be scrolling on Tinder all day. You could be stuck on Facebook all day. You could be watching daytime TV all day. But you, I'm sure that you don't do that. It's a very rare occasion you do that. You take those 4 days.
Good question. I see where you're going. Like, how do you get the balance?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's quite a timely question, actually. So I quite like the mix of having sort of stability but freedom, and not just freedom for travel, but it's quite easy to sometimes. There have been moments where I haven't felt as motivated. The thing I like about having fingers in a few different pies, because it keeps me stimulated, and I need variety or I get bored. So I do a lot of workshops for an organisation that sends me into lots of different companies. So I'm constantly stimulated. But that's not sort of sometimes it will be every week, and sometimes, like this month, I don't have many. But that's good, because that's an opportunity for me to dig deeper and to reach out and develop my own business, my own workshop and coaching business, which I probably haven't spent much time doing, if I'm honest. And I'm driven to do that because I'm like, well, I need to make sure that I've got enough money coming in to live and to do the things that I want to do. So sort of leaving some space, it's almost like it is like a driver, because I know that I need to kind of create those opportunities to be able to live the life that I want. So it's almost making things comfortable enough to have stability, but not so comfortable that I don't have to stretch myself. You know, like if I don't find more workshops and actually go out there and put myself in front of people, then I might not be able to afford that trip to America that I want, that is really important to me, or that trip to Belize that I really want to go on. So for me, it's sort of striking the balance between stability and stretch and sort of risk zone, and having that being forced to push myself, actually being forced to, how do I get more workshops? Well, I might need to go to more events where I'll invariably meet some people and get chatting, and they'll feel my passion, and then they'll see, oh, that could be an opportunity. And maybe it's writing some cold emails to contacts that I've got, or reaching out to friends and asking if they might be willing to introduce me to someone, that sort of thing. So for me, everyone's different, but for me, it's striking that balance between having enough stability, but sort of knowing that as an entrepreneur and a freelancer, i.e. I work for different organizations like universities and whatever, those things could disappear. They could go. And if you stop and think about that too much, you could panic. And so what does that propel? It propels committed action. Another way I support myself, I'm sure like you, David, is I really support myself through reading, listening to podcasts, because they're free and wonderful opportunities to learn from inspirational experts. So I'll always remember one of Lewis Howes's podcasts. One of these great guys he was interviewing was saying, just always keep the promises you make to yourself every day. So I might make myself 2 promises, like whatever I do, I need to achieve these 2 things, and then I'll be able to kind of go to sleep at night. And I've also started a practice with a best friend in Geneva. On a Sunday evening, we'll say, what are your 3 intentions for this week? So as you say, being intentional, and it might be, like, let's say last week it was getting more sleep, exercising more, and eating healthier. Another week it might be reaching out to contacts, or I don't know, going to more networking events. So sort of being intentional and just, tuning into what you need in that moment, not forcing things, but thinking, I'm, like, as I said to you, I did 3 workshops this week. I felt exhausted, and actually sometimes just stopping and thinking, I feel exhausted and I feel really disappointed in myself that I can't work today, but that's okay. I'm able to sort of, just have a sleep or just rest a bit. That's okay. So also just listening to your body, and wherever possible, trying to kind of tune in to your body and honor it, whilst also pushing yourself into that stretch zone, which might not always feel so sort of, yippee, let's go, let's pick up the phone and have that sort of, slightly salesy conversation that might be quite at odds with your personality type, So that's probably quite a garbled answer, but it's in other words, it's probably garbled because it is partly trial and error, and it's working out what works for you. None of us are perfect. We learn as we go. And that's the main thing. It's having a growth mindset around that and seeing what works, what doesn't work, where you might see some gaps. Talking to, as we said again, talking to great friends and sort of mentors who can reflect back and help you grow and move in the right direction.
Have you been learning anything on your recent travels? You've been to lots of different countries and lots of different types of holidays and types of journey. Has anything, you talked about that time in the hot tub and that sort of insight came to you. Is there anything else you've been learning or exploring in your travels?
I think, for example, that Yosemite moment, that that's a constant learning, that nature always inspires me and gives me clarity. In terms of actual learning, I recently learned to paraglide, but that's very much a tangible skill. But joking aside, that goes to the, goal setting and learning new things is invigorating. And that was great because, again, coming back to the people, high quality people, being in a group of like-minded people who value adventure, that breeds learnings of all different varieties, really, not just learning the skill of paragliding, but also learning about yourself, about the sorts of people that really excite you, and learning the importance of time out and recovery, which is something, again, that's referred to in this great Harvard Business Review book called Resilience. They talk a lot about the importance of recovery. We'll often beat ourselves up. Oh, I don't deserve to, relax. But it's essential to our productivity, but really switching off, much like leading sports professionals, that recovery is essential, having proper downtime. So yes, that's something. These are all things that holidays experience with travel bring me. They always bring me a lot of learnings at every stage, even if there's a learning in pretty much every time I want to go traveling somewhere slightly random. My mum will basically say, "What are you doing? You're nuts," or "You shouldn't be doing that," or "You shouldn't be spending that money." And that's also a learning, because every time I sort of defy what I'm told I should and shouldn't do, they're always the best decisions of my life. So learning to go with my gut instinct and not be led by others, not be led by what I should be doing or what people are telling me I shouldn't be doing, but listening to that little voice inside saying, "You want to go to San Francisco or Portland, and maybe there's a reason for that." And as it turns out, yes, it seems there were quite big reasons for me wanting to go to those places. So trusting your instincts, I think, will always lead to positive learning experiences.
So we have covered a lot in our conversation today, many different topics and tangents, as I'm sure we would, as we did last time, and we've done so this time again as well. I like to start bringing all these thoughts together and start wrapping up and bringing everything to an end. And I normally do this through a couple of questions that I like to finish with. Now, of course, you have already answered these questions. I already asked them to you before, so I can't ask them again. Be interested to see whether your answer has changed or not since we last spoke. But I wanted to ask something completely different, try and get some new ideas and new perspective out of our second time round. So the first of these questions is, what would you like to be doing more of?
That's such a good question. More of, I would say more creative ventures. So like you, I love writing. I'd like to be doing more writing because I always feel grounded, and I'd like to write books eventually. I would also like to be doing more podcasts, carving out time to do more creative things. Absolutely. Yeah, I would say that's sort of quite high up on my list. I mean, I'm doing, I've always got fun travel plans in the making, so that's already quite an abundant reality. And I would like to earn more money as well. I, like you, am very passionate about what I do, but I don't always push myself forward to sort of companies to sell myself. And I think I play small sometimes. That's something I'm definitely aware of. So I'd like to push myself more, push myself outside my comfort zone more. Yes, I do in many ways, as you can probably sense with traveling and all sorts, but I think I could be doing it more. I need to stop sort of playing small and challenge myself more in those ways. And for me, it's not money for money's sake. It's something that facilitates, again, that leading value of freedom. And for me, it's more like an energetic it's more a sort of energetic interchange, really. And it's a marker of, growth sometimes, not always, but sometimes, particularly in the area of work I'm in with sort of corporate workshops. So obviously that's quite a different field to coaching, for example.
What in your life are you excited about?
What am I excited about? Would you like me to speak about anything in particular?
What's exciting you?
I'm excited about the thought of moving abroad, hopefully. Moving somewhere new. I like the UK, but I've never felt that it's where I'm meant to be, or certainly more latterly in latter years. So I'm excited about the thought of being in new places that invigorate me, with new people, new inspiring people, new inspiring opportunities, hopefully with someone very exciting by my side. Yeah, again, feeding back into what we've been saying, being in like a high quality relationship with someone who, supports, inspires me, and with whom I can have like that mix of stability and adventure. So yeah, I'd say those that's what's currently exciting me.
Through our whole conversation, is there an idea you feel you should have shared, but you didn't share today?
That is such a good question. And yes, there is, David.
Oh, brilliant.
That is such a good question. I'm going to remember this for my own podcast. So something I wanted to share, which is so simple. It's how can you bulletproof your week? So we all have maybe, let's say, 3 to 5 things that if we do, we generally feel good. We feel excited, happy, peaceful. And we notice that if we sometimes feel a bit wobbly and weird, we might stop ourselves and say, okay, out of those sort of 5 bulletproof strategy of activities or whatever things that I engage in, which ones haven't I done? Oh, I haven't exercised once this week. Oh, I haven't been reading my book. Oh, I haven't listened to one podcast. I haven't gone out with a friend. Identify what it is you need in your week to bulletproof it, to feel good, to feel yourself. So simple. It's just a brilliant way to just check in, little tick list, and to realign your week and to sort of get back in control of your happiness.
Excellent. Well, I think that is a lovely point to round up everything we've been speaking about so far today. Thank you so much for coming back once again and sharing all of your work and wisdom with us. I've particularly enjoyed some of your kind of scientific approaches, both science in terms of the research you bring in, but also how you yourself take quite a scientific approach to the things you're doing, where you almost go out into the field and you test things, you try things out, and you think, oh, Mel, that's a good idea. Oh, that's something that I should do. Here's something that I can work on and I can bring in, I can change, I can improve. So I've really enjoyed that approach and that aspect that you've brought into our conversation today, and I'm sure the listeners will get a lot of benefit.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that it was of some help. I really enjoyed talking to you, David, as usual. I feel much more energized now from my prior state, which is testament to your excellent interviewing skills.
Actually, do you mind if we mention this live?
No, not at all. No, not at all.
So yeah, Mel was actually not entirely sure, not whether she wanted to do this interview today or not, but she wasn't feeling quite in the right place. Not 100% feeling like it and motivated and confident and inspired to do this interview, but nonetheless, you showed up anyway, and I think you actually embraced some of the principles we've been talking about today. Resilience, well-being, and you know what? You showed up even though you weren't feeling necessarily 100%. And I hope that actually the course of this conversation has made you feel better and has made you feel more energized. So thank you especially for coming on, even though you were in that sort of state of mind and that state of body where you're feeling a little bit tired, a little bit run down. You came and you showed up and you did a great job.
Oh, thanks, David. Well, thank you for encouraging me to do so. And the best part of this is chatting to you on your fantastic podcast has reminded me how rewarding creative sort of aspects of our work are, like podcasts. So thank you. You've also reinforced something that I keep on putting off that I really enjoy doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it hugely if you could head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the podcast. With your review, please be as honest and detailed as you can be. Because with honest and detailed feedback, that helps me to adapt and grow this podcast to most serve you, the listener. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you aren't going to miss any of the future episodes that we've got lined up for you. Until next time, remember that you are the author of your life. You hold the pen, and you can write whatever script you want for yourself. So go out today and write yourself a beautiful story.